So, my name is Jen Mack, and I am a time management coach from A Space 4. Before I kind of go into the nitty-gritty of it all, I wanted to share that this is my 4th speaking gig. My first one was about 4 or 5 months ago, and I had to speak for 5 minutes, which is 5 times an elevated pitch, so it's really quite long. 5 minutes, and then today's one is 4 times that, so still quite long. So I'm practicing, and I'm also practicing how to use a microphone. But the reason why I want to tell you this is to tell you from my own actions that you don't need to know how to do it straight away. You figure out one small thing and you build on that each and every time. You just build on it. So one of the feedbacks I got from doing this 5-minute talk was people didn't know what I actually do. So, time management coach, nice and clear. What does that mean? It means that I have managed to figure out a career for myself that pulls together my interests, my skills, and what pisses people off. Put them all together and develop some books and some workshops to provide resources for people to figure out what people actually want to do with their lives, figure that out, then figure out how to make space for it, then how to stick with it when you go uphill, and then actually try and achieve it. So for me, I have done that whole thing of jumping ship, of doing part-time, of doing temp, of deciding whether to job or not to job. And I've started to come to a realization that it might just simply be a side effect of being a grown-up. But we still have to persevere. So this talk is really about how I created a space for, hoping that you'll be able to learn from my kind of mistakes, my insights, so that you can save yourself some time, save yourself some heartache. As part of this talk, I'm going to tell you 11 tips on how to stick with it and persevere. The kind of overarching theme with these 11 tips is to remember that you don't have to do everything. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to do it all in one go, because that will only just make you feel stuck. It makes you feel like you're going to choke and suffocate from all this immense expectation. You just need to pick one thing and do that step by step by step. So where was I? About 4 years ago, I was in a corporate job. Kind of similar situation in some ways to the world we are now, where a lot of crap news, you hear it and it's like different people for whatever meaningless reason are being killed. And I was consciously choosing to go to a job that I did not like. And I started to think, why am I doing this when I have the choice, when I can choose what I want to do? The only reason why I was stopping myself from doing anything was because I worried about how to pay for the bills, how to explain it to my parents. But that's not really a good enough reason. So for me, despite not knowing what to do, not having any job, I quit. I had about 3 months worth of savings, and I decided that's that. I'm gonna figure out how. Gotta figure out how to research me, how to figure out what I like. And I went back to basics. Basics being, I like cake. I enjoy cake, I enjoy baking cake. Let's see if baking cake for a charity would work. So I tried that. I also like learning about health. And so I delivered health information through Kirkgate Market, basically rebalancing all the fat that I was producing as well. So I tried these different things out. And at the time, I'd only done psychology degrees, so I knew something about people. I knew that I liked understanding people. But very soon, I realized that it did not like getting my cake scrutinized. Although the feedback was constructive, it really flipped my motivation from your social norms to your market norms, from dinner parties where people were saying, oh, thank you, thanks for putting in the effort for making a cake, thanks for trying out all these weird concoctions, to someone basically saying to me, I'm afraid that's a bit wonky, we can't really put that on sale. So tip 1, don't mistake your hobbies for work. So as I was figuring out what to do next, I decided to check out counselling. Whatever I was going to do, it would involve listening to people, speaking to people. We all interact with people. So I thought, okay, this is going to be useful to me, whatever job I'm going to do. And so I tried out a certificate course in counselling. In this course, throughout it, I realised that actually it's not something I could do long term, because even just watching my tutors, my supervisors, they're all doing part-time jobs. They don't earn very much money. So I knew that this wasn't going to be a long-term ambition, but I knew it would still be useful. And from that, I did pick up loads of really good friends, really good self-development for myself, really. So sometimes you just do things because they're really useful to you. You can't really think of the money, you can't really think of the job security, which is kind of a brainwash technique anyway. Just do it if you find it beneficial to you in some form. So I tried it out. But how was I managing to keep myself afloat in terms of money? Well, I had to swallow my pride. I had to go back to a freelancing job. They had made me redundant because they'd run out of finances. I'd gone back to waitressing for a few months until I managed to get myself sacked for speaking too honestly. There are times when innovation is not welcome. And then what else did I do? I basically had to learn to say no, and it's really uncomfortable to say no, but I had to learn to say no and figure out other ways to socialize, to meet other people, that kind of thing. But tip 2 is be humble. There is always something to learn from any experience. Even if you have to get what you might be considered a low-paying job to get you by, there is something you can learn from it. So I continued on with the counselling. As I did the counselling diploma, as I was charging all this money onto this bottomless pit of student loans, I was working in a mental health charity from the bottom up. I worked as a volunteer befriender and then did all these admin roles. And even though the job title was basically an admin role, which in some cases is quite a simple job, I didn't let that stop me from showcasing other abilities. I didn't stop it from allowing me to speak to my line manager, to tell them my kind of bigger ideas for the charity, my ideas about how we can develop different groups. I joined some company-wide groups, and these allowed me to show my abilities to senior management, and that's how I got more and more opportunities. So what I wanted to show different opportunities, and as well as doing that at work, I gave myself permission to do things outside. I gave myself permission to do workshops, just set up a meetup group, meet people, test out ideas. Throughout the years, I find ways to test my abilities, test my interests in the simplest and cheapest forms. So writing, you can just blog. You can go onto medium.com and just write a blog and publish it within an hour. It doesn't take very much. You can set up meetup groups for pretty cheap, so that way I was able to test out whether I can coach. I tested my ability to interview people by recording conversations with friends, recording conversations with new people in new places. And it was just on my phone. I didn't need any fancy apparatus or anything like that. I could just do it with my phone. So tip 3, test your interests and your skills right now. Even just a small thing, you can test it. So after 3 years of working part-time and studying part-time, I was frankly quite knackered. And I was in no fit state to make any grown-up decisions, so I did the best thing, which was bugger off to the other side of the world, to Taiwan. And that was the first time I traveled alone. And I was very proud of myself for just arriving and getting there, let alone the next 2 months of figuring out how to do things. Just getting there was a big, big thing for me. But traveling to another place, one of the things with that is I had to learn to be uncomfortable. Learn to be comfortable with uncomfortable. And it was very much about recognizing the benefits in different things. So recognizing that although I was on my own, I learned to appreciate and really enjoy being on my own and not having to deal with other people. I learned to be my own cheerleader. I literally got stuck between two forks in a road. I had my GPS and I turned it on and I was just up in the hills and I could still not figure out how to get back down. But I just had to do it. I just had to pick one and carry on. I learned to be more secure and find security in myself. I'd grown up used to parents and friends kind of checking in, at the end of the night. You go, oh, text me when you get home. And it's a nice gesture, but it does have this implicit sign in it that's saying the world's dangerous, the world's scary. You got to make sure that you're all right. So my friends thought that I was posting foodie pictures on Facebook because I wanted to make them jealous and of all these fancy places I've been to. But really, it was to show them what my last known location was. So tip 4, learn to be uncomfortable. Build your ability to endure, to persevere. And if any of you are considering building your own business, I highly recommend traveling on your own, because you do learn to not know anything and learn how to ask. So I came back from travels back in January this year. I'd finally created this space. I'm going to move this along because move this back. I think it flashes more when it's white. Anyway, so in January, I came back and I'd finally created this space where I was no longer attached to a job. I wasn't attached to a place. I wasn't attached to a relationship. I didn't have any dependents. The parents are fine and dandy. So really, I could make a conscious choice about what to do next. And so I decided to fully commit to trying and build this business. But where do I begin? What do I start with? And for the past year, I had actually been blogging for about twice a week. I've been blogging about trying to find out what the hell to do with my life whilst working 40, 60-hour weeks. And from that, I actually could mine quite a lot of information. From it, I actually developed 2 books, which I published at the beginning of the year. And unfortunately, I soon realized that, yeah, you've written some books, but it doesn't really make you special. Yeah, you can build it, but people don't necessarily come. But the whole writing process, which was really quite fun because I learned how to really maximize on eating loads of chocolate and really appreciate Yorkshire tea, it was great. I was really channeling Bernard Black. It was great. So I'd written these books, and what I got from them was really a seed. It seeded ideas for my workshops, for how to coach people. It was a framework to begin with. So tip 5, audit what you already know. You know a hell of a lot, more than you realize. So come to April, I waited for the tax year specifically to begin so that I could officially launch the business, because it makes it a lot easier to remember. So I launched in April. And it started to become real. I started having to meet people, explain to them what I actually do. And that is quite weird and scary. It was like, I think I'm this. What about this? And it's really, you just have to test your ability. And it's not about being concrete about what you are, because it does change. You've got to allow yourself to change. And with building this business, I realized from talking to people, testing out these workshops, people knew before me what I actually do. And what it was that my unique selling point is around time management. It's around building these processes and systems for engineering chance and engineering possibilities, which I've actually tried out on relationships, and it kind of works too. But you've just got to give yourself the chance. It's not just turn up to the game. You've got to make those tickets yourself. So for me, I built this ability over the years to test and experiment all the time. So my tip 6 is recognize that you can grow in stages. You don't have to know everything all at once, nor do everything all at once and all at the same time. It can happen incrementally. And it kind of has to, because we'd all be fried for one if we didn't. And this is how I got fried. In about April, May time, I did what people are supposed to do when you start a new business. You do everything crazy on social media. You post on Facebook every day, you tweet and you check in and you retweet and you build pretty pictures on Instagram and you put a nice little quote. And then I even tried YouTube vlogs, and I had the feedback from a friend who was saying, oh, you need to make better eye contact. And I was saying, I'm trying to smile, remember what I'm saying, hold a camera, and trying to remember what I'm trying to say. So leave me alone. So what I realized from doing the social media was that it creates a lot of noise that, although it potentially can be useful to you, you really have to make sure it's not giving you any bad side effects. In my case, I realized it was really digging into kind of my own sort of insecurities at times about, am I doing the right thing? Because damn kind of Facebook algorithms, they will show you all the people who are better than you at the job that you want to do. So in my case, I kept seeing all these coaching millionaires, and I was like, well, what's the point of me trying to do anything? They're already out there doing it. They all look pretty, and they've got their nice professional photos. But you have to keep trying, and it's really that you have to remember that you shouldn't compare. As I came across this quote recently, don't compare your beginning with someone else's middle. Remember that you're starting, and that's perfectly fine. So, but for the tip 7 is to check that what you're doing is actually returning what you want. Because when I was doing the social media, yes, I was doing pretty much every day, but were people actually converting into clients? When I stopped doing that and I took myself off it, I found that when I did one workshop, I had 30 attendees, and from that I got 20 sign-ups. So out of 3 people, 2 people had chosen to allow me to put, in a sense, literally post something through their door, rather than just putting flyers everywhere and anywhere, hoping that they would trip over it and notice it. I was allowed to post something through their door. So check that what you're doing is actually returning what you want. So once I've decided that I don't want to do social media, I then had to find out a new way of marketing. And it's really kind of tricky, because people are like, but what social media? Have you lost your mind? You know, how else do you market yourself these days? I was like, well, flyers, talk to people in person, the old school ways, snail mail maybe. So in my case, I've had to learn how to do public speaking, which is not something that naturally occurs to me. Like mountain climbing, it's not something that I naturally intend to do. I'm scared of heights. That's not something I'm going to do. Public speaking, naturally, I am an introvert. If you see me a few years ago, if more than 2 people looked at me whilst I was talking, I would probably blush. And even to this day, like with friends the other day, I was having a party, in a sense, and had some friends over. I would rather someone else explain something. I don't want to be doing the explaining. So even though something might not be your natural tendency, it doesn't mean that you can't learn to figure out how to do it and to perfect on it. And again, you don't have to know every single little bit of detail. You can work each bit and perfect each bit. So, tip 8, say yes then learn how. I said yes back in July for that 5-minute presentation. And then from then, I said yes to another one and another one and another one. And through this process of keep daring, decide, act, repeat, I'd given myself the ability to reevaluate each time I did something, to re-engineer it so it would be better next time, and then re-energize myself so that I could keep showing up. So another thing that happens when you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you will inevitably fall into some pits, and you will get lost, and you will feel disheartened, and you feel very much lost about what to do next. For me, writing became a way of figuring out what to do with all those, for fuck's sakes, moments that always come in 2s or 3s. So for me, I want to share that you need to find yourself a way of recycling this kind of crap that it will inevitably come your way. It's very much that pain is art and happy does get boring. I didn't manage to blog twice weekly because I was happy. I blogged because I was really annoyed, really irritated about trying to figure out what to do. And people like that. People like seeing that other people get it. Other people are trying to figure it out as well. There's always something that you can use that kind of crappy moment to turn into a positive, whether it be sharing it with a friend or just sharing it with someone you meet networking. It helps you connect with other people. So I'd finally figured it out. I'd finally figured out what I want to do, what I'm passionate, in a sense, what my ambition was, which I'd found myself years and years searching for. What the hell is this ambition that people seem to be born with? And I think it's something that you can find. It just means that you have to take all this crap out first. I finally figured it out, this ambition. But could I and should I really pursue it? Because it is incredibly hard. It's really, really tiring. I don't really recommend it. Because you do have to learn to rely on your friends. And for me, I had to learn how to ask for their support. I had to learn to rely on my parents. I had to ask to borrow money. And for someone who is trying to do this because I want financial freedom at some point, it does seem very delusional. It does seem like I might be going completely backwards by relying on people. But for me, what I'm hoping is that this short-term discomfort, I hope short-term, is going to lead to a freedom of mind. It's not about freedom from money, because there's always money issues in some sense, but it's having that freedom of mind to not have it weigh you down and being able to make the choices that mean that your life is actually of purpose, of use to other people. So I'd finally decided that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And yes, it's really hard, but I'll just have to figure out the strategy. In the meantime, tip 10, celebrate the small wins. You have to measure your progress. You have to find ways to recognize that you are actually improving. And in my case, whenever I have a happy client, that's a win. Whenever I have recommendations and yeses to workshops, it's a win. Whenever I'm able to choose the life that I want and I'm actually there for the friends of mine, there for my friends, it's also a win. Lastly, I want you to realize that progress isn't forward momentum. You don't always have to go straight. You can go sideways, you can stay put, you can go backwards, in my case, because it's flashing again too much. You can go backwards, and it's perfectly fine. The point with being successful, I think, is not that it's a certain goalpost. It's the fact that you actually keep trying, that you actually keep acting. I realized recently not to look for motivation because I am really lazy. Particularly in this time of year, I really don't want to do anything. and I can't rely on motivation. What I really need to rely on is this going to give me some kind of momentum? Is this actually going to progress anything? So pick one thing and keep doing it. Tip 11 is to keep daring, to decide, act, repeat. Make the smallest decision, act and repeat. The smallest decision might be just to throw your trainers at the door so you remember to use them and go to the gym at some point in time. The smallest decision could be to text someone to make sure that they will respond to you so that you might actually get yourself out. Don't think about the big thing too much. Just do the one thing that will create the momentum. All right, thank you.